necessarily a different topic for me, but something that I think is going to be very, very helpful for you all. And it's called 10 Things You Must Sacrifice If You Want to Be Successful, especially a successful entrepreneur. I heard the quote the other day that the number one sign of maturity or a mature person is the willingness to sacrifice. And you can always see when you're around a child or, someone who may act like a child or what have you, because when it comes down to sacrifice, they have a very, very hard time or willingness to do it. But if you have children or look, you're an entrepreneur or what have you, you realize that sacrifice is a part of the game, right? So here are some things that you have to sacrifice, and it's a sign of maturity if you want to be successful. Number one, LMS. LMS stands for last minute shiz. Okay? Right? You have to be willing to sacrifice it. Being able to do things last minute is a luxury. All right? And it's typically a luxury for those who have very little responsibility. But if you want to be successful, you got to let go of the last minute stuff. Why? Just because you have time doesn't mean everyone else has time for your lack of organization and or shenanigans. Okay? It creates unnecessary stress and it limits flow. Meaning things don't just happen the way that they can to where you're unable to build momentum because everything's happening last minute. And so running a business is obviously going to be stressful at times. Heck, living life can be stressful at times. The last thing you need is the additional stress of just last minute things. Number two, tardiness. I put C above. Think of your business like a car. Something fires off late and you can die. Right? Whether it's, hey, you hit the brakes and it took way longer than normal for them to actually stop. Whether it's the transmission, the motor, something happens and it doesn't happen in the timing in which it's supposed to happen. And it can either tear your car up or it can create an accident. It's the same thing that happens when you fire things off late in your business. Because everything is meant to flow together. Everything is meant to work together and in tandem. And if not, and it doesn't happen, then something else is obviously being sacrificed at that time. And we're not talking about the good sacrifice that, I was just speaking about earlier. So do that. Number three, get rid of that old technology and old ideals. Okay? We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we certainly don't need carburetors anymore. Okay? If you don't know what a carburetor is, it's a part that used to be on a car that no longer exists if you have newer cars, okay? And none of us are driving any 1950s, 60s cars, okay? So, ask yourself, are you being held back because you refuse to evolve with the times? One of the things that we've seen recently was going online, doing things virtually. That's something that we started doing as an organization, prior to the pandemic occurring. And it made it to where it was a smoother transition just because we weren't just so stuck on doing things one specific way, right? And there are going to be plenty of times in your business where maybe it's an old ideal or an old type of technology that you may be using that can hold people back. I know one of the things we started doing, was working with, different types of recruiting and, heck, we've had recruiting events and things like that versus just regular, post an ad, what have you. So just get rid of your old ideals and your old technology. Number four, staying up late just because. All right. It sounds simple, but it's very true. Yes, there are a lot of interesting shows on Netflix, a lot of places that you can go, but your business and your team needs you fresh and unstressed. Okay? Do you know that a lack of sleep can increase your cortisol levels anywhere between 30 to 60%? Meaning, just from not sleep. Go ahead.
No, I'm just clearing my throat. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it can increase your cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone, right? So next thing you know, you're tired, you're stressed, you're more short than you would be normally. You're not as creative. And the second thing is when you're stressed, guess what you get? Anxious and frustrated. How many of you guys want to drink a cup of anxiety and frustration before you start your day as an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yannick, our last business speaker just talked about how powerful the subconscious is.
Yes.
And talked about the time before you go to bed, like how influential it is with your with your dream patterns, but also what you manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not, some people set nighttime alarms and things like that, but she was like, you got to give yourself a full hour of this is my wind down time. Like if you want to go to bed at 11:30, you better start getting to bed at 10:30 because it takes that time to be intentional about whatever. So it's like, I've heard people talk about bedtime alarms, but then the next step is I need to be in bed by 10:30, so I need to get started on the process at 10 so I can be asleep by 11,
Yes. I love it. And that's why I like a good nighttime routine, because it forces you to do it. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to read, I'm going to moisturize, I'm going to do all of these different things, because these are all the different things that I do. And what's funny is when people have babies, they do that. They don't just throw them in the bed. It's okay, let's get a bath. Let's put lotion on. They do this nice and long routine to make sure that they get a good night's sleep. But then we're just okay, jump in the bed, and hold your cell phone up all night and end up staying up until 2 a.m. anyway. So don't do that. Your people need you fresh. Number 5, you also have to sacrifice what you feel like doing. So like Brandy said, we are driven by our subconscious. Our subconscious is 8 years old. So a lot of times what you feel like doing is what you felt like doing as a kid, which was staying up late, playing, and just doing what you want to do, not going to bed, not brushing your teeth, not drinking water, not doing whatever it is, right? Not working, not wanting to go to school, all of those different things. But you have to be willing to sacrifice what you feel like doing. Now it's about what your life needs, your vision needs, and what your business needs. And sometimes how we feel in that moment doesn't align with that. But you have to remember that success feels way greater than whatever it is you want to do in that moment. Freedom feels way greater than whatever it is you feel like doing in that moment. Having strong finances feels way better than whatever it is that you want to do in that moment. So sacrifice what you feel like doing. And what goes along with that is time wasters. There are many things that are fun, many different ways to spend our time. And heck, we have these things in our hands called cell phones that have found, and people have invested millions of dollars in advertisements and apps and alarms and notifications to make us feel like doing something on here. So we have to be even more diligent about our time wasters, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't do anything. Just plan what you want to do outside of, the work that you need to do. Plan your fun. Plan your creative time. Plan your outings. Because if you don't end up planning it, you're going to just stuff it into your schedule because you're going to feel like, oh, I need a break. I need a break. I need to stop doing this. I need to take a load off. And there are times where you just need a minute. But there's a difference between taking a minute to yourself and de-stressing and getting back centered, and then just wasting time and trying to distract yourself from current realities. Okay. So make sure that you're not practicing escapism where you're trying to get away from what it is that just needs to get done. Number 7, that negative soul-sucking friend or family member. That negative soul-sucking friend or family member. Have any of you guys heard of the word enmeshed?
Enmesh?
Enmeshed.
Enmesh, no.
It is to cause to become entangled in something. To get involved in a difficult situation from which it is hard to escape. Negative people, negative family members, friends can get you enmeshed in their drama to where you are emotionally and sometimes physically entangled in what it is that they're doing. You know, I was speaking with one of my family members, and she was saying, "Oh, my stomach hurts. My stomach hurts." And I said, "It's funny that you keep saying your stomach hurts because you're around this person a lot who's always complaining about stomach issues. Does your stomach actually hurt?" And she looked at me and she said, "I don't know. No, it doesn't." I'm like, okay, that is an example of how you can get physically and emotionally entangled in someone else's drama without realizing it, right? But we can't really afford to get entangled in anything that doesn't make sense based on where we want to go, unless you are morally, required to do so, and I don't mean don't show up for people, but we don't just show up for their mess for no reason, because you need that energy for yourself and for your business. You have to be willing to sacrifice the I can do it myself mentality. And that is so hard, because entrepreneurs, leaders, they're all very independent, very self-motivated, and really socially, we have promoted this idea of like, do it yourself, pick yourself up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And it's an actual concept that they talk about, which is bootstrapping, right, in business. And typically, that only works for like the early phases, right? Very, very early days. Past those early days, you got to be willing to work with people. So every single one of you, you need your own teachers, your own coaches, your own teammates, people that you can get around that can help you build what it is you're trying to do. So, don't try to do it yourself. Get your team together, get your support system together, and just get everyone on the same page and build. Right? Number 9, you guys sacrifice.
Yes. Yanni, what was 6 was sacrifice what you feel like doing, and then I feel like I'm missing numbers.
Number 7 was you need to sacrifice that negative soul-sucking friend or family member.
Okay.
Don't actually sacrifice them, but let them go. That was number 6, time wasters.
Oh, time wasters.
Yep.
Sorry.
So we just did number 8, which is the I can do it myself mentality. And number 9, you must be willing to sacrifice wastefulness. You cannot waste resources. You cannot waste time. You cannot waste your energy. You cannot waste ideas. If you have a great idea of something that can help you in your business, jump on it. You cannot waste gifts. This goes for your personal gifts and also for the gifts of the people that are in your office. There are going to be people that come into your business and that come into your business in your life that have specific gifts. You want to make sure that you utilize those, right? And making sure that not only are they put in a position to where they can utilize those gifts, because obviously that's what makes them feel good, but also whatever increase that comes from that. So you say you have someone that maybe they're gifted in relationship building, right? Like, how many of you guys have extremely friendly people in your company? Right? How do we utilize that? Are those the people, do we make them the person who does the introduction or orientation? Are they the person that does, anything that deals with meeting people for the first time? Do we put them in those positions where they can really thrive? Are they the ones that are reading out, I guess like the meeting notes for your company, or the announcements? There we go. Are they reading the announcements? What are they doing, right? You have these extremely talented people. Let's say you have someone that is a very talented in sales. How much of the sales training are they doing? How many people do you have them connected with? How much of the training are they doing in-house? How many phone calls are they leading? How often are they speaking with the client? How often are they doing all of those things, right? And the last part that you don't want to be wasteful with is just your creativity. You have the ability to come up with things that are new, put it together, get it done. And the last one that you have to sacrifice is any excuses or victim mentalities that you've become addicted to. No one is coming to save you. And there's nothing wrong with you. We all have things we're great in. We all have things that we need to work on, right? But that's it. You know, just because you have something to work on doesn't make you a victim. So you have to be willing to sacrifice the excuses and the victim mentality that comes along with just humans, right? And part of it is, you know, we've developed a society that accepts excuses. Okay, you get a third strike, you get this, you get that, you get that. And people have gotten used to, I can get it done, I can finish, I can do whatever, when I feel like it, how I feel like it, what have you. But you gotta find a way to get it done. And just remember that although people can support you, that is the best thing that they can do, is support you. When you're the leader, you're the person that has you're the one running with the sword. They're going to support your efforts, but you're the commander. You're out front. The commander is in the back. He's out front. Right? So just remember that. Eliminate excuses. Find a way. And that's when you tap into your creativity of figuring out, okay, this is hard, right? And being willing to admit, hey, this is hard. You know, because sometimes our excuses come from the fact that we're unwilling to admit that something's difficult. So one, hey, this is hard. And two, what am I going to do about it? And three, who can I get some ideas from? Where can I gain some support? You know, if we were all had our own country right now and we were going to war, we didn't have enough manpower, we're going to call our allies, right? Meaning you got to find a way to get it done. And so those are the 10 things you need to sacrifice, or you have to sacrifice, which is a sign of maturity if you want to be successful. And that's all.
Yay!
Yay!
So, Yanni, I'll share my takeaway, and it was really on the last point, because what resonates with me is I think people, you know, whether it's societal week, it kind of goes back to them when you talk about too, of like, I can do it all myself. Mm-hmm. But like I've been telling the leaders, like, you don't have to be confident that you know everything, but you have to be confident that you can find the answer. That's all anyone is asking. Like, even the customers, right? Like, Mr. Customer, I have